Strategic Planning Committee to order. It is 7:05 on June 10th. I'm Sherry Tice, the chairman, here with John Motz and Audrey Lukasak, as well as councilperson Tom Klitzka and Tom Duval, our mayor, and our other people in the audience that we're happy to have with us. We need to approve the minutes. Did each of you have a chance to read the minutes from our May 6th meeting?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye? Okay, thank you. Move right into the new business portion of our meeting. We have, in 2023, the Montrose Group did a strategic plan for economic development and did fiscal analysis for the city. So we like to take a little bit of time once a year or so and review it, see how we are doing towards working towards our goals that they outlined. So that's what this meeting is about, to review where we are and talk about things that are happening in the city and around Circleville and the surrounding areas a little bit. So it should be a lot of good information. I'd like to start with the first tactic, which is industrial site development. And we have Mr. Tim Colburn here, who is the director of P3. Could you come up, please, to talk to us? You want to give people just a quick overview of what you do with P3?
Sure. Thank you, Chairperson Tice. So Tim Colburn, Executive Director for P3. So that's a community improvement organization and a director for our Port Authority, another government Ohio Revised Code established organization. Both have similar tools but different, so we use all the tools in the toolbox. The community improvement organization is 60% represented by private business, for no less than 50% by political subdivisions like the city of Circleville, and we focus on economic development across Pickaway County and your economic development agencies in the city. So we put a presentation together jointly between city planning department and P3, and so we're going to go back and forth between the two and work through the four pillars within the report, Sherry, if that's okay.
Sure, and I'd like to, before we get into, is that the same one that you sent us, the overview, or is this something different?
What you got electronically from Hannah is very detailed, all the areas of development,
Right.
industrial development and residential development, sort of homework to look at ahead of time.
Yes.
We're going to go through at a much higher level and then be prepared to address questions that you may have come up through
Okay,
the information that went out before.
all right, I will hold my questions to the end then. You didn't email this to us though, right?
Pardon?
We haven't gotten this by email though, right? Because it's,
Correct, we have not.
Right, and I'll get it sent out to the clerks following this meeting for your review afterwards.
This is really a leave behind and should be a really high overview of what you've received in detail, so it hopefully addresses questions or sparks more activity.
okay. The problem is that we can barely read these monitors.
Okay.
So so you'll have to bear with us. Like that, the angle's bad, so that's why we all brought our computers so we could follow along, but, go ahead.
Do you want to forward that? And I go on?
Yeah, if you could just forward that to us,
Look at it right now.
we could open it up. That would be great, thank you.
And I think it's simple enough that I'll start talking while
Sure.
we're doing that, and then we'll
Thank you.
play back. So again, as you pointed out, four pillars within
Mm-hmm.
the city's strategic plan produced by Montrose, the commercial industrial development, residential development, downtown redevelopment, and sort of quality of life is their fourth category. And Sherry, you have the meeting sort of set up to do that.
Yes.
Hannah and I and your team and our team are going to ham and egg sort of the commercial residential. But you don't do strategic planning without sort of all four of those pillars, and they're all very, very related. We're going to try to tell you what we've worked on in 2024 and 2025 to date, and forecast a little bit about going forward. And that's what sort of the first slide says. What I'm really proud of is the collaborative work that's being done between the city and P3. This doesn't exist in all areas of the county, and I set it up as an example when I talk to the village of X or the village of Y. And so I think you should be proud of that. So four areas that we want to focus on: economic development tools that help support your strategic plan around economic, the tools, business retention, expansion. You asked me specifically about industrial. We want to also talk about infrastructure improvements and communication plans. So to follow your lead, you wanted to talk about industrial, with a little bit different order than we had planned, but I think that's easy enough to handle with a slideshow. You have a lot of tools deployed in the city, and if, Melissa's, I think, in the process of sending those out to you.
Just got it.
Okay,
Send it to me.
yeah, go to 3 and then, where's maybe 4? Yep.
Keep going, you're fine.
Okay, so to summarize the tools that you have in place, and when people think about industrial development in Circleville, you probably typically think of the RCA Thompson plant or the GE plant, maybe even historically the Purina facility. Those have had, been shuttled, not active, but that is something that the economic development team does, is work on redevelopment. More on the leading edge, what industrial development is Circleville doing today? A lot of that is the collaborative work you've done with your joint economic development district. And so this is between Circleville and Pickaway Township. Your municipal income tax rate is used in Pickaway Township to build infrastructure. For instance, at the Sofidel plant, 600 new employees, and you participate in that income tax. Those dollars are used to help your city's vibrancy. Additionally, as you brought new industrial development and/or residential development, you've deployed using an NCA. I know the administration and council have worked very tirelessly on that, and it has been well received by the development community. Hannah and I can go through these together. We have residential developments that have all signed up for it, as well as the commercial industrial in the form of Valvoline and others who are participating in the NCA. We worked tirelessly, as Audrey has shared with us. Good to see you again, Tim, after our 7th or 8th meeting, working through tax abatement and TIF legislation, and for the first time in Circleville's history, using that economic development tool for residential properties. And I think Hannah and the P3 team should be very proud of the work they have done with Circleville Township to get our joint zoning board. Please don't forget, zoning, land use plans are an economic development tool. So let's move to the industrial base at GE, RCA, or Purina. And a lot of these we're using with redevelopment dollars. And so if you've got to page 4, this is where we are at the very bottom. If you have it on your laptop, under grants.
No, we got the current development initiatives in the Parks and Rec update. We don't have the one that you have on the board, I don't believe. This way. You can keep talking, Tim. It's
Sure,
fine.
thank you. So if we don't take advantage of demolition funds or remediation funds at the state, other communities will. There's a dollar amount allocated from the state to redevelop sites, reinvest in sites. Within the city of Circleville, demolition funds were brought down in multiple millions of dollars to help the Cargill facility reinvest over $20 million in its facility. Similarly, we have done an environmental hazard assessment at the Ralston, the old Purina plant, in collaboration with city planning, city zoning, looking at enforcement and using those rules so that we can have a site where we know the environmental hazards and we have them compliant with zoning, and maybe there's something else to be done with that facility or other facilities. And a similar strategy with GE. We've had active conversations with GE, who has cleaned up that site, doesn't have a clean bill of health, but knows exactly what is there, and they've remediated a bunch. It's as clean as the facility has been probably in 30-plus years. So a tool that we're looking to deploy at the county commissioners and I have worked together with the county auditor and the county treasurer to develop a land bank. Land banks can be used for blighted homes and residential properties, but they are equally used for industrial facilities. And we may be able to use a land bank to draw down state and or federal dollars to get the GE site or the RCA Thompson site cleaned up. My preference would be to do that on a locally controlled basis. We used similar dollars to clean up the old Jefferson Smurfit facility, the old RCA plant in 2005 and 2006. Those were controlled by outside national developers. It would be great if we can control those with Pickaway County developers and have some influence on how timely or efficiently the sites get developed from a local perspective as opposed to a national perspective. I want to pause there and see if you did get
We
the
do.
current
We have.
presentation.
We're with you now.
All right,
Thank you.
and then take questions.
Yeah, I have a question. Do we have a land bank now? Did the county get that established?
Yes, correct.
Okay, because
Yep.
that's just been in the last few years, I believe.
Yeah, actually, they started the paperwork, in the past few years, and it was ratified this year. We have active interest, as I pointed out, GE and RCA Thompson, the Purina Mill, as two examples that could use those from an industrial development standpoint. And based on that activity, I was able to work with the county prosecutor, Prosecutor Wolford, Treasurer Ellery Elick, and County Auditor Brad Washburn with the county commissioners to put it in force. So it's an active tool, it's being actively used. Land bank, the optimum time to use the land bank for remediation or demolition funds would be when the state authorizes those funds through the state budget. So we're getting very, very close to July 1st of 2026 or 2025 for this 25-26 budget. And I think the July-August timeframe would be logical to do something with the land bank and former industrial sites in Pickaway County. Oh, I'm
Is that
sorry,
something we
sorry.
have to apply for then?
Yeah, state,
Specifically?
we need to know how the state grant dollars are going to line up in demolition or remediation funds, and then we would apply for them. Good news is, we already have our inventory, we know what our needs are, and so when the state qualifies its budget, we would apply for those grant dollars. Example, in 2025, we had over $2 million of demolition and remediation funds that we received. And these are just Circleville dollars.
I was gonna say, is that the county or is that the city?
These
That's
are
the
cities.
city? Okay. For this year, so we already have received $2 million.
Using it at Cargill, using it
Okay,
at
that's
Purina.
being used.
Using it at the ESC building on Mound Street.
Okay.
Sorry, on South Court Street. So
All right.
one of your industrial corridors is identified as South Court Street, the old Circleville Bait Shop.
Tell me what's happening down there.
We are using demolition funds and remediation funds to make sure that old gas station is cleaned up.
Excellent.
And it's a private landowner, so the private landowner can collaborate with us, and as long as they have an intent to repurpose, we can bring down state dollars to find beneficial uses.
Because that was a gas station before it was a bait shop.
Historically,
So
yeah.
are there still gas tanks underneath? ground there?
I can't answer that question directly, not my area of expertise, but we are doing a full assessment and cleanup.
All right, very good. And I know you said that GE has done a good bit of cleanup, and obviously they brought down the front building, and the property looks so much better than it did, but there still is work to be done there?
Yeah, so either there is still work to be done, or we need to validate that there's not. It's either
Okay.
those two things, and I'm a logical person. GE would do what it needs to minimize its liabilities, and they might not do everything they need to do to get a clean certificate from the state or in our eyes. And so we would want to spend dollars to assess that site from our own perspective with the long-term ambition of getting a clean certificate from the state from an environmental perspective. That clean certificate would allow that property to be redeveloped.
Yeah, then that's what we need to proceed with?
Proceed in 25 or 26 funding, yes, ma'am.
Because I know that there are residents in the area that are concerned about that.
Rightfully so, but I think our best case, or our best answer today is that it's as clean as it has been for many, many years, and we are not going to be able to redevelop it until we assure it's clean or we
Okay,
make it more clean, if that's the right way to say that.
yes.
I think that site is prime for mixed-use development. It could be some type of residential, but also using it for its highest purpose, commercial or industrial.
Yeah.
And there are also all kinds of state dollars out there for mixed-use developments.
Sure. And we are getting a lot of mixed-use developments, so love to see some industrial developments that would put more people to work. But anyway, do you have any questions?
Sherry, I think that's really important. And so if strategic planning committee, council has that perspective, having that clarity is very, very helpful. That allows us to influence discussions with developers. It also allows us to market differently. I get a call from a residential developer, and he says, so show me the sites. No, we're not looking at that because council has a long-term ambition for that to be commercial or industrial. With the residential development around that around that property already, that my mind automatically goes to mixed use, employment and some type of housing or in between.
Sure. And that's, another option. But I know our previous auditor said when we lost the Thompson factory, which at its height had 1,200 employees, it takes, 60 or 70 restaurants and gas stations to make up for that kind of, income revenue for the city. So this is where we're light right now. We don't have the industry, of course, that we did have, but.
I think I love the challenge and I understand the direction.
Sure.
And then, sort of bookend and remind you that I think you are deploying a very good strategy to collaborate with Pickaway Township. And, one of the strategic areas in Pickaway County for industrial development is around DuPont and Sofidel, and for Circleville to be a player in that area is very good.
Right. So what's happening with the Purina? I hadn't heard anything about anything happening with Purina.
Again, we've applied for environmental remediation funds. We've assessed it from an asbestos standpoint, and I think Hannah's team from a zoning and compliance standpoint probably can give a better update.
Yeah, we've started to utilize the International Property Maintenance Code to properly deal with that building. It has been closed and boarded up. We're in the process of looking into condemning the building or possibly ordering it for demolition if that's justified. So we are in that process.
Glad to hear you're working on it.
Well, and hopefully it's pretty easy to see. Hannah used the word demolition. I've used the word demolition, that we can be aligned.
Yes.
Part of my personal vision, use the city's authorities, use the county's authorities, use the fire chief's authorities, health department's authorities to act as a screen and allow the appropriate things to get through, and those things that shouldn't get through get stopped at one of those various levels. But it'll take collaboration across all those stakeholders, and tonight's just an illustration of how two of those stakeholders are collaborating.
Yes. And we're thrilled to see you working together, so thank you for that.
Sure. Maybe I'll just wrap up areas that I had.
Sure, go ahead.
And then we could hand it to Hannah and her conversations, but know that these things go together. You can't deploy economic development tools unless you have a good land use plan, a comprehensive plan. And I really applaud council, the mayor, Hannah and her team for communication with our stakeholders. The transparency is really critical. So this would be the next slide behind, business retention and expansion. You just know while we've talked about RCA Thompson, please know that site has delivered the Frito-Lay. That is employment. Mm-hmm. There is still a warehouse that's actively on that site being looked at to be purchased that would expand Circleville employment more. I don't have the ability to discuss that more. And Site Q continues to be looked at. It would help us from what do you want to retain that property for? What new businesses do you want to? I've had the developer come to me and say, hey, we want residential, and we introduce them to the residential developer, and then they say, hey, we'd like to talk to commercial developers. And so I'm sort of going back and forth. If council has a preferred plan consistent with its comprehensive plan, that singular direction would help us. And Sherry, like I heard your input on GE.
And that was my own personal input. That's not, I can't speak for all of council, but
And I'm not convinced I have to have a vote.
sure.
But if we have a direction, that helps me to say, hey, city council, when you bring something before planning and zoning that has to go to council, it's going to be received this way by two people and this way by two people. But if we have it go this way, it's going to be received this way by a majority. And that clarity, it doesn't have to be an official vote, but an opinion of what the city wants to do would be very, very helpful for us.
Can I ask you, as we're talking about RCA Thompson, what is Site Q?
This is your site proximate to Frito-Lay, between Frito-Lay and Logan Elm Village.
Okay,
So
okay,
Down here, I don't know if you can see the cursor on the screen, but
yeah.
southern portion.
Yeah, I drove out to look at the Frito-Lay warehouse because I don't drive down that road very often, and it looks like it's almost, is it operational now?
I think close. I
Almost
don't know
done.
where their occupancy permits are. Or,
I don't think we've achieved occupancy permits, but I know they're closed.
Yeah, almost done. That's
look,
good.
look to me, I drove through last Thursday or Wednesday, and it looked like punch list. You know,
Yes.
they were working through the punch list.
Down to the end.
Yep.
All right, before we move on from the industrial commercial, one of the goals that they gave us in this plan was to look at developing partnerships with the surrounding, townships and going west on 22 through that corridor. Have we done any discussion with the Jackson Wayne Township folks
Yeah,
about potential?
I think we've gone where it's hot. So our corridor to the south has been hottest. We have needed to pull the joint committee together between Circleville Township and Circleville based on activity in the township. So no, we have not. Happy to consider that. Conversations with Jackson and Wayne Township have happened from an economic development standpoint. I have looked at over 90 sites across Pickaway County, really outside of our strategic areas, southern Pickaway County, around DuPont, Sofadel, around Rickenbacker, for various industries that have been knocking on our door, and you receive different degrees of interest. The city's investment in the utility west of the river, along the highways, along major power lines are very important to you, but we have different perspectives in different townships. So I think we're going to have to, based on activity or heat, maybe start those, but your point is strong.
Just-
Activity and conversation does help.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Just have to start the conversation
Yep.
at some point. So,
I'll be prepared for an update in the next 6 months about those conversations. I have been to both townships during my tenure,
Yes.
but not specifically about activity, but more to report soon.
okay. All right, do you have any questions?
No, on business and retention and expansion, those are the things that you've identified already, right?
These are the activities ongoing, yes.
Right.
We would spend time knocking on the door of Cargill to figure out how we can help them. So that is from a business retention standpoint. Business expansion, how might we use Site Q for industrial development? So it's sort of a two-pronged attack. Existing businesses are courted, and what tools do we have to help them? And then how do we use open sites?
Knowing that many of the new housing developments are on the north end of town, right? And the one thing that I hear often is there going to be a new grocery store on the door?
Yeah, so the hotel's on there, not deflecting from grocery store. I did hear you say grocery store.
Yeah.
But a commercial development like Valvoline, like some restaurants that are knocking on our doors, and the hotel have all been active. Project Lights On, we have a hotel operator who has received a commitment for a bank. So we're in the next level of conversations. A hotel is so far much easier because a hotel developer bought the land and is very interested. We have not found a grocer. This is something Mayor Blanton challenged me with early in our tenure together. I believe the opportunity is north. I've challenged developers to tell me why it's not north, because we have Pickaway County Circleville residential development north. We have South Bloomfield and Nashville are just to our north, and is there any logical property on 23 that would build something? So far, we've done a high-level AI analysis of data and market. The traffic that goes by, our rooftops and our traffic don't push the needle to yes. So I think it's a matter of time. So what do? Do you sit around and wait? We don't. We have taken bids from advisors, consultants who look at retail, and I specifically don't care about all the other foot traffic. I want a grocery store, and one of the biggest things, road cut, rooftops, and traffic counts. And great, I can show you what they are today. Morpsey has data that shows it out in 2050. What's missing? And if we can begin to understand what's missing, we could begin working on those gaps. I think the hot areas we've been dealing with, this is more of a lukewarm area that takes a little bit more analysis, but quite frankly, if you wait for it to get hot, it's 5 or 10 years later and you're behind the curve. So we have to do some work today.
Okay, thank you.
Can I circle back, Tim, to something, I believe you have hotel on here, and I believe you said something that a hotel has purchased land?
You've had a hotel owner own land adjacent to this to the existing hotel for the last 5 or 6 years. And so when I started in the role, we called, go ahead.
On South Court Street, or where? Okay. Okay. So essentially in front of the Thompson warehouse. Okay, thank you.
In front of your
Clarify.
existing, the Marriott. So, by City Barbecue, so in your industrial development, yep.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
Not until just now.
I
So
was
what,
gonna say, We're learning things.
in our city, with you looking at all this, what are some of your visions or hopes or things that you think that would benefit our city from your position? Meaning, what kind of things would you hope to see? What are we missing? What do you think would be crucial to start adding to our city to make our development better?
I think execution. I think what is in the plan is really strong. Hannah will spend time on the communication plan with your stakeholder, with your community. We talked about her spending time with Parks and Recs, which I think is on the agenda. Those quality of life things are really important. And then the previous meeting that I was able to sit through part of, the safety forces, the continuity of those things are very, very important, falling into the quality of life function. I've been in Pickaway County in Circleville for almost 30 years now, so I've seen some of these waves. I think attacking it with communication, engaging the stakeholders like ongoing, and landing the new neighborhood or the new business, I think in time we will prove that the safety force levy is the right thing to do, and we'll check that box and we'll have quality of life. We'll work on our parks, we'll work on our roads, and we'll attract more businesses. And quite frankly, it takes all of us doing that together. Before I hand it over to Hannah, I think I came here last year, or maybe it was my first year, and said, hey, there's some things we may need to do differently. Hannah will talk about the Alto development. That is a great example of things we need to do differently. We need to get creative. We need to be consistent in our planning, our comprehensive plan, our land use plan, our enforcement of those things, and we needed to have some courage. Council took courage. We ran the Alto project through all of its hoops, and I think it's paid off. It will result in a new development. It will improve city's income tax base. I think it will result in better quality of life. I don't want to change those 3 C's, courage, creativity, and consistency. That creates clarity for development in Circleville. But this year, without losing focus on those things, I think the real opportunity is if we're affordable, can we be, affable, can we be available for the developers? Alto sings our praises. They keep talking to people. People are going to come down here more. If we're available, Hannah and Jim answer their phones all the time for the city. And if we're accomplished, like the Alto project or the redevelopment dollars we brought to the community, the park dollars we brought to the community, if we are affable, available, and accomplished, we will have more achievement in 26. I don't have a long list of things to do, more of the same in 26, with the addition of, hey, can I give you some feedback on Wayne and Jackson townships? Can I give you some feedback on the grocery? Is there anything else you would need from your economic development agency?
I think that
you.
covers it. You've done a lot. Thank you so much for all your work, and I know it's ongoing.
Well,
so-
and no, it's not singular. I mean, while I've been up here,
Yes.
Hannah helped and put this presentation together.
I
We
know.
sat down multiple times, collaborated on this. Her work on the plan, the residential structure, all these things are supportive, so I really want to turn it over to her and let her talk about how we've worked together.
Yes, Hannah does an excellent job. We are happy to have her on our team.
Yeah, thank you. So, like Tim mentioned, you should have received some slides from me before this meeting that really go through each project that we have going on in a little bit more detail. So I want to kind of take a step back and, oh no, what did I do? There we go. Maybe. Here we go. And kind of look at some like higher level things that we've done to be able to accomplish these projects that were on that other set of slides for you. So one thing I think that we've kind of had the biggest improvements in the past year has been communications. The Alto project was one thing that took a lot of work and a lot of communication between, the city, P3, elected officials, and the developers, and also with the public. Kind of put out that Q&A sheet after the first public hearing that we had on that development, and the public had a lot of questions, so I thought it was really important to take those questions, put them, all of the answers out on a public forum, to kind of get those addressed before the next public hearing. And I think that it helped a lot. It didn't have as many questions at the next public hearing, so I'm taking that as they got answered. And it really helped to get that project across the finish line.
Now, I agree with you 100%. I don't mean to interrupt, but I agree with you. I think about 3 years ago, we were asked by the Herald, what are the biggest challenges we have on council? And there were several of us that identified communication as the most difficult thing. And since that time, our new mayor has, instituted the newsletter, which is amazing. And I can't believe you got 3,000 subscribers. That's wonderful. That's the first time I've heard that number. And then also the social media that you've got going on. So the administration, kudos to both of you for all of that work.
Can I just add, communication has been a focal point for our administration, not just external communication, but also internal communication through departments and with each other. But we can't lose momentum on communication. We have to look to see what it's going to take to be able to do this forward. Right now, the newsletter was started by an intern. It's currently managed by an intern. Interns are only with us for a certain period of time. So what can we do to plan for the future to where there is consistency in the messaging across the city? Because when you look at how we communicate right now, you hear multiple different voices in the way that things are written, and it would be great if we could find some way to be able to have a consistent voice in everything that we're sending. And Hannah and Gracie, God send Gracie, her most recent question and answer corner has been just knocked it out of the park. And we have received positive comments about that. And sending it out as an extra email through the newsletter channel has been really welcomed and appreciated by our citizens as well. Today at the staff meeting, they reported we had a 50% open rate on that, and that is an incredible open rate when you consider the number of emails that people probably get in their email accounts. They're looking for that information, and they're seeking a steady place where they can receive information from the city specifically. So I just wanted to say publicly, kudos to them for the work that they're doing, but also how can we think about how we keep this consistent and have a little courage going forward?
One question, I think that's great, and we all do look at our emails. That's one thing. Not everybody reads the newspaper, not everybody watches this TV, not everybody's on social media, but I think everybody pretty much looks at their email. Is there a cost to the city involved with sending out the email blast?
Yeah, we do use Constant Contact, and there is a subscription fee associated with that. So we
Okay.
get a certain number of emails that we can send out per month with that service.
Is it just a set monthly fee then?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's an annual fee, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Based
Well,
on
I'm
the
sure
number of
it's
subscribers.
Right.
based on how many
Yep.
emails you're sending? Okay.
Yep, and yeah, number of emails that we're sending out to. So right now we're around 3,000.
Sure. Well, I'm sure it's well worth it.
Yep.
I don't,
Yes, definitely.
And we're not close to, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, we're not close to sending our max number of emails that we can send per month.
sure.
Right, yeah, before Gracie started, we were sending the newsletter every month, so that was just one. With her being here and helping me out and ramping up the communications, we've been able to start sending out some additional emails. That's why we started the Q&A corner. You see last week was the first week that we started posting answers. We're posting those on our Facebook page, but we're also sending those out through the email blasts. And we're gonna try to start actually utilizing all 12 emails a month to get the necessary information out, but.
Just don't overdo it, because then people start ignoring it.
Right. We'll have to find the
Hit
balance.
that sweet spot.
But I guess that kind of leads me into the next thing that I wanted to talk about was the Q&A corner. You'll see we started it last week. The plan moving forward with that is to be posting a set of 3 answers every Thursday that allows us time to follow up on Friday if necessary. But we've got an open survey for people to submit their questions to, and we've already got, over 50 responses on that. So it's going to take some time to work through them all, and I want to put it out there that we will get to them. But we're just kind of taking it in small bites at a time right now. But it's been well received so far, and I hope that this is a good way to open up a line of communication between the city and the public, and that'll help support our future economic development efforts if we've got the public informed and on board. So we go to the next one. So infrastructure is another big thing that we have been working on to be able to support all of this new development activity. One of the biggest things we hear about is roundabouts. So our safety action plan that was done through the Safe Streets for All initiative did recommend roundabouts at Walnut Creek Pike and North Court Street, and also at Lancaster Pike and Stoutsville Pike, which I think we all know that those are warranted there. Those are going to be things that we're working on here in the future to be able to support all of the new residential developments like the Alto project and River Ridge up on North Court Street, and Wesley Commons and Jodiro out on 22.
So let me ask you, am I hearing you saying that that is going to be happening, or this is something that we're going to look at trying to work into the budget in the future? Because I know that roundabouts are expensive to implement, and we do have a lot of streets.
Right. It is going to depend on funding sources, and we're exploring those funding sources and what it's going to take to be able to do these. But they were recommended in our safety action plan, so it is something that we'll be working towards.
So would the passage of the levy, would that money go towards the roundabout?
I can't say that it would necessarily go straight towards that, but it would definitely help.
Okay, because that would be.
We'd definitely be exploring other funding sources, grants, state funding to probably be able to get all of this done as well. It would take multiple funding sources.
And just for the public, you and the service director, of course, would sit down and look at your budget for the year and try to decide where you would allocate the funding that you have. So, nothing is like, oh, yes, we're going to do that at this point, right?
Right. These are just,
Just,
in future.
right.
And I do just want to clarify, just for the citizens that are watching at home or residents that may watch this back, the money specifically from the levy would go to pay for what's in the ordinance that we said that the levy money would go to be spent for. It allows us to not have to cut other places in the budget to take care of those costs. And so those are the dollars that would be going for streets. And then we've already made budget requests for next year, and currently without the funds coming in from an income tax levy, we are looking at cutting about $1.2 million for some of the very things we're talking about today.
Yes, I just wanted, thank you for clarifying that. I wanted people to understand that this is all as the budget allows.
So, intersection of our two presentations. So, economic development tool we put in place with the Alto project. So you guys are very familiar. We've done 10 meetings on that project. But we did tax abatements and tax increment financing. Over time, those properties will go from farmland to industrial or to residential development. The single-family homes, for instance, when all built out, are probably worth $40 million on the tax register. The way the incentive was structured, a portion of that is used to complete your comprehensive thoroughfare plan and water retention. But a portion stays with the city. This is a new source of revenue to consider. Consistent with Hannah's answer, we will look at all sources of funds. But now we have a new source of fund as this residential area gets built up to solve infrastructure surrounding that development. And so that will be something clearly our teams work on, but just an example of how the two intersect. You don't do infrastructure development without the economic development tools. You do them in concert. So.
Exactly. So as the building happens, it will start coming in, more funding will start coming in down the road. So maybe 5 years from now, we would have, significant revenue from that, but
Yeah,
not today.
Not
but
today. The thing that will be
coming.
more predictable, the apartments will clearly be built faster than the single-family homes. Single
Yes.
family is one person at a time. The apartments go up and they try to get them leased up. all the product in South Bloomfield and Asheville were rented before finished construction. So you'll add that $35 million apartment complex to the tax rolls. Those were roughly $20 million valuation in South Bloomfield and Asheville. Those will hit the rolls rather quickly, and you'll get some level of predictability of a funding source to help solve something through the safety plan.
Yeah, thank you.
The same themes kind of go forward with the water and sewer regionalization, something that mostly the service director has been looking at to be able to support increased development activity in the city. Parks and trails, same thing, increasing the quality of life for all of the existing and new residents. And that's kind of the fourth pillar of the strategic plan. And zoning and code enforcement is another big piece of our infrastructure that goes towards helping economic development, and that's something that's been a work in progress over the past 3 years, and we're continuing to work on it. So we're working on some big changes. You'll see them coming up, and we've started to put some information out about them, but I'll mention it here that we're looking at switching from a criminal enforcement to a civil penalty method for code enforcement violations. Right now, it's a pretty lengthy process to get anything done because of all of the notification required, and then going through the court system to, be able to charge someone with a minor misdemeanor for not mowing their grass. Looking at changing that to be a civil penalty, which would be more fines, administrative tickets along those lines, be faster, more efficient, should hopefully end up in more results. Homes are getting cleaned up, and that helps everyone in the city. So,
That's good.
yeah, those are kind of the biggest infrastructure piece I was hitting on, and I think that kind of includes everything. We kind of jumped around in our presentation, but.
I have a question while we're on infrastructure.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of questions about the grade separation project. Do we still have that grant, or where are we with that process?
Yeah,
What's going on?
Jim knows more about this than I do.
Good evening. Railroad grade separation actually just got fired up again last week, and we will be bringing Structure Point up for hopefully a committee of the whole. I think Barry's going to set something aside in September for that will officially kick that off, but they're going to do a presentation on where we're at and what our next steps are. We're hopefully on a 5-year track to build. So that would be completion within 5 years. That's the latest model I've got on the project. So they're looking at possibly completing in 2030 with that project. So we have a lot of work to do in the meantime, but yes, we still have that grant. We officially were told we have that grant a few weeks ago, and the Ohio Rail Development Commission started everything back up. We had a kickoff meeting, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So yeah, it's going again.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
That is everything that I had on these set of slides, but like we mentioned, you received the more in-depth slides on all of the developments. If you guys have any questions about those, I can pull that up. Or
Yes, please. Can you run through that? We have 9, looks like, residential developments that are underway at the moment. So you are a busy lady, keeping track of all of that.
Yes.
So that's why I asked you to put this together, because we've heard a lot about Alto, as Tim mentioned. We hear bits and pieces, but it's nice to see it all together to help the public understand and help council members who don't, deal with this every day like you do.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I just want to start with kind of an overall map so you can see where all of the developments are. As we've heard, they are mostly concentrated in the north end of town, but we've got some out east, and we've got the Cellar townhomes on the south end. So I've got these kind of in order of how far along they are in the process. So the courtyards at Northridge is the furthest along. It's been going for the longest. It is condos, 41 units. They are under construction, have been for a while. I want to say they're getting close to being halfway built out up there.
I was going to ask if you knew, but it looks like it's about halfway done.
Yeah. The next one is River Ridge. The final plat for the Phase 2, that was just passed last week. Yep, so that's a total of 116 single-family units up on North Court Street. D.R. Horton is building those. And yeah, like we said, the final phase, the final plat just passed, so they are under construction. I believe there are somewhere between 10 and 20 homes going up there already.
Sure. Of the first 60 that are phase 1, they're,
Correct.
maybe 10, 15, 20
Right.
they're working on. It's amazing how fast those houses pop up, too.
Yeah.
They really are something,
Yep. Keeps us busy with permits.
I'm sure. So
Got Heritage
116 total there.
Yep, that was 116.
at River Bridge.
Heritage Ponds is next. They're also under construction. Final plat's been passed for a while now. There's 68 total single-family units being built in this final section of Heritage Ponds. This also took Victor and Sycamore all the way through over to Edgewood, so creating some connections that were called for in our thoroughfare plan. And Fisher Homes are building these homes. And they're moving right along up there too. I'm not sure exactly how many houses are up, but they just keep coming in, so. Then the Alto PD, we've talked about this one plenty, so you guys should be experts by now, but this is apartments and single family. We've got about 252 apartment units going in here and about 155 single family homes. This is also creating connections called for by our thoroughfare plan in Atwater and Georgia Road. They're north-south connections running up to Sycamore in the Heritage Ponds development. And AB Contracting will be doing the apartments, and Ryan Homes will be building the single-family homes in this development. And they are moving through the platting phase of this. All of the zoning has been approved and is in place. They're just moving through engineering review and platting.
And this is the one that you and Tim worked with very closely to revise and rework to get it to where it really was benefiting the city.
Right, yep. Took a lot of collaboration to get this project up and running, definitely. Now we've got Wesley Common.
On Alto, just out of curiosity, did you work really closely with them they did a lot of focus groups, or did you work with them of getting the people to those focus groups? Because they were obviously here at the hearing, and that model seemed to be very effective.
I didn't work directly with them on that, but we kind of told them that it would be a good idea and that they should do that. So they took our advice and followed through with it.
So Audrey, just a little bit of background, I'm sorry, to add to that. So this was the third time that this type of development had
Right.
been, proposed
Proposed, yeah,
for this
right.
site. And so we knew that getting it across the finish line would take a little bit of time. In our initial meeting, this was early in my mayor term, we sat down with them and went through all of the recommendations that we had for them to get us to where we are today. So it was a collaboration with a lot of people to give them the feedback of what we have experienced in the past.
Yeah, no, it was very good, and a good model for future things. Thank you.
The Wesley Commons PD is kind of next in line. This is the one out by the schools. This is currently pending the final development plan. So this will come back to planning and zoning for their final PUD approval. This is a mixed-use development. There's single-family homes, duplexes, a neighborhood business section, and a general business section, all in this development. And we do know that the builder for the residential portion is going to be Fisher Homes for this as well. The commercial retail sections are going to be retained by the current property owner, and they're going to develop those as they have people interested in it. We've got the Jodiro PUD, which is just down the road, across from OCU. This has been in progress for quite a while. I believe they first put their application in 2022. They've been going through extensive traffic impact study review with ODOT, and that has been approved now with some changes. So they are moving forward, and I believe will be coming up to you all for a public hearing next week on the 17th, I believe. This is a mixed-use development as well, with single-family, patio homes, townhomes, and apartments. And there will also be a space reserved for a church. This is at the request of the Christ and Christian Union, that they are having to cut across their property to have a roundabout in alignment with OCU's main entrance. So that was kind of something that they requested be reserved in the development in return for getting access across their property to make that connection.
And it looks like this will have road access both on 22 and on Stoutsville Pike, is that
Yep.
correct? So it won't be all the traffic in one or the other place?
That's correct. They did initially have an entrance on Bolander Pontius, but that was removed after the review by ODOT on that traffic study. And then we
This is-
have,
That's still very early then. It's just
Right.
Preliminary stages on that one.
right. And this is kind of in the same boat. In the preliminary stages, has not been rezoned yet, but this is for the Seller Townhomes down in the south end on Pickaway in Ohio and in Washington, kind of where those are. They're in the process of rezoning to multi-unit residential for 44 townhome units. And again, this is in very early stages. The plan we have up right now is a concept plan accompanying their rezoning application. But another possible 44 townhome units down on the south end. I believe that wraps up all of the residential developments we have going on. Oh, actually, nope, there's one more. Sorry. Clifton Estates is even further behind. They have not submitted an official application yet, but they have appeared in a public meeting at Planning and Zoning for their pre-application. So I did include them on here. This is extending the Clifton Estates subdivision out. They own the property pretty much all the way up to Dunkel Road, so proposing kind of finishing that subdivision out. Be approximately 150 single-family units. I think that number is subject to change, as is the layout of the subdivision, since they have not submitted anything official yet. But just wanted to put this on your radar as well, since they have appeared in a public meeting.
And that would likely probably happen in stages as well, I would imagine.
Yes, I think they're thinking maybe up to 6 phases.
Sure.
So, I believe.
And then you also have.
They keep coming. It's hard to keep track of all of
As I
these. My
said, there-
gosh.
There are 9.
I keep thinking I'm done.
It was amazing.
This one has been kind of stagnant for over a year, so kind of, yeah, miss it. This received preliminary plat approval in 2023. This is Lakeside Reserve. It's just north of the Heritage Ponds subdivision, so it'd kind of fill in that northern part of town. 95 single-family units. And yeah, like I said, they've kind of not moved since they received their preliminary plat approval. They did get an extension on that earlier this year that extends that out for one more year. So their next steps would be submitting engineering review and applying for their final plat. But this is just following the zoning that there currently is there. So there were no zoning amendments or anything necessary for this, just a straight subdivision plat.
And just for clarification, this is not a guarantee that any of this is going to happen. These are
Right.
just things that are potentials in the pipeline.
Right. Yeah.
Because we've had other things that have been proposed that didn't end up happening,
Mhm.
so.
And yeah, even if they are approved, they might not actually follow through and build them. So, yeah, until they're built, it's all,
It's all in the
Yeah.
plans,
yep,
so,
Yep.
okay, just for the public, you know.
yes, yes.
So have you, did I see somewhere the total number of housing units? All of these?
1,932.
What is it?
1,932.
Okay.
Potential.
Yeah,
Right.
just adding all of the
Yeah,
totals at the
right.
bottom.
Okay, okay. That's a lot, okay. It's a lot.
And even if it does all happen, it's not likely to all happen this year. I mean, this is going to be something that's going to be happening over the next
10.
several years, maybe, yeah, maybe 10, who knows? And some of it may not ultimately come to fruition.
Right, yep, that's exactly right. We've
So-
seen, River Ridge has already gone in 2 phases. They're moving quickly, but a lot of these are likely to go in phases as well and take multiple years to build
Yeah,
out.
Heritage Ponds, I built there in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just not finishing
Sure.
up. I think, Jim, you've been out there for, I think, maybe before me, actually, yeah. So, yeah, it's just a matter of time.
Well,
You have different type of developers.
Yep.
yes,
DR, Horton, Fisher Homes, build homes. When they're there, they're still 10 years away,
Yep.
as you described, John. If you have land aggregators who look to sell to Fisher, Hannah mentioned Wesley Commons, and that is one step away from the home builder. And it's far from then, 10 years in your example, so I don't want to get the public alarmed.
right.
We need to be affordable, available, so that we can achieve things. But not all of these things can happen or be sustained by infrastructure or communications or city funding or quality of life. We have to balance them.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is actually the last one.
Yes.
Come to the, can you come to the podium, please? Sure. Give us your name, please.
Dominic Ali. It's okay if I ask a question.
Sure.
The first slide you showed about the property that's in progress. What's going to take to speed it up? Because I noticed like in Columbus or other cities, like they throw up properties like right away. Is there anything that's slowing it down?
I know that first one, they are building those condos. Once someone purchases them, they're buying, so it would just take buyer interest there. They don't build until someone has, kind of purchased it and designed it, so. I guess it's just buyer interest on that one.
Any other questions from other council people, or?
Did you say that was with Alto?
That
No.
was the very first one, the condos that you were referring to. Yep, on Northridge, condos at Northridge.
Courtroom.
The standard one?
Courtyards at Northridge.
Okay,
By Red Barn.
okay.
Courtyard.
It's creating all those 9 different.
That's why we need it in black and white in front of us, because keeping it all straight is
Okay,
challenging.
thank you.
Sherry?
Yes.
One question on, obviously, Clifton to be named. That is expected to go in at Victor and Northfield and then out to, from there? So they're looking to put how many homes in there?
I think the estimate is around 150 right now. Like I said, this one is very flexible at this point. This site plan that we have up here right now is definitely going to change.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm just looking at it like, okay, we know where the entrance is and there's not a lot of width
Yeah.
in that area.
One of the biggest things on this is that we are requiring Pontius to go through to Dunkel. It's not currently shown on this plan, but it is part of our thoroughfare plan that they're going to have Pontius go through and connect to Dunkel.
Okay.
So that will create an exit to the north and be following our thoroughfare plan.
I was going to say, because right now it's going to be a little crowded. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Hannah. If you want to go on to the 5 commercial developments, that would be great.
Okay. So again, we'll just kind of start with the map so you can see the pins dropped in over the residential developments. These are mostly concentrated then on the south end of town. So first up, we've got Valvoline. This is complete and in business now. This is on South Court, where the old school used to be. Not much else to say. They're in business, and I've been through there myself. They're quite fast. We got the Frito-Lay warehouse, which we've also talked about earlier tonight. They are under construction and nearing completion. This is on Circle Drive. Nelson Industrial is the developer on this. I don't think I have an estimated number of jobs, but it is a substantial warehouse that they're putting up there, as you've seen, so. 40 is what Tim's saying. We do have a Bojangles coming in. This is going to be on the same site as the Valvoline, so it'll be kind of between Valvoline and McDonald's. We've got, all the plans are approved on this. They're just waiting construction to begin down there. So that address will be 1280 South Court.
I do have a question on that. I know there was some talk in the past about extending the service road to McDonald's and changing the, ins and outs there because it's sort of a crazy section of road. Are you still looking at that as a potential or not?
Yeah, we have looked into that. We don't have any plans right now, but it's definitely been something that we've talked about many times.
So that will not connect into the McDonald's property at this point then?
Correct, yep. It will just be coming off of the road that was built that goes back to Valvoline. They'll come off that same road as well.
The intersection there? Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
The Porter's site is redeveloping. It is going to, the laundromat portion will remain. That is still standing, but the car wash and, is it a dry cleaning portion, we're
it's
taking down. Yeah, that is going to be replaced with a gas station and convenience store. So you can kind of see the plan here. One thing that we are requiring with this redevelopment is that curb, gutter, and a multi-use path be installed along the frontage as well as street trees to kind of be in conformance with our thoroughfare plan. And we will be making sure as sites along North Court Street, they're redeveloped, that we're requiring them to do the same. Hopefully ultimately get up to the River Ridge development where they have a multi-use path along the frontage of their property as well. So we can tie that all the way back into town.
That'll be good. That'll soften that commercial district a little bit. Get some nice sidewalks and trees in there.
Yeah, it's also defining their entrances. I know it's kind of wide open, so they'll have defined entrance points off of North Court Street there.
Also good for traffic.
Yes, and also have the racetrack. This is another gas station and convenience store. This is down off of Circle Lane in 23. Traffic study, has that been approved? Yeah, it was, the traffic study has been approved since I put this presentation together, so looks like this project will be moving forward.
And that's on
soon.
the other side of 23, it looks like, right?
Right, just south of Arby's.
Is it, okay, so it's back where, is it a credit union behind, sort of next to the credit union in that area of Arby's?
No.
No, it's further down.
East side of Good Child. So it's in between 23 and Good Child.
Right.
Okay,
It's kind of hard to tell. This is Circle Lane here. This is 23, and Good Child kind of comes behind it. So it's
Okay,
in
so
between
it's-
23
right.
and
closer to,
Coughlin.
yeah, closer
Yep.
to 23 then. Very good.
Yep.
Okay.
it's like that's it. If you guys have any questions, I can go back or.
Any questions? Thank you. Thank you, that was excellent presentation, helping us understand all the things that you are working on. Keeping you busy.
I'd just like to say that if you take time to set up time with Jim and Hannah, they're excellent to sit with. I mean, this is kind of like a refresher, so I appreciate it, but they do carve out time for you to sit with them, take advantage of them. They're a wealth of information, keep you up to date on these projects. So a lot of the stuff I was hearing tonight, I've already heard just because they take time to sit with me. So
Yes.
I encourage you all to sit with them. They're a wealth of information. And thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, the next tactic we have is the downtown redevelopment strategies, and our mayor, Michelle Blanton, is going to talk to us about what's going on down there.
Yeah, so we have worked with city council to have a resolution passed in 2024 that allowed us to contract with Small Nation. In March of this year, we took a group of about 15 people up to Bell Fountain to see what they have done in their downtown area. And then in May, they came and visited the city of Circleville. Some of you sitting in the room were a part of that and were able to hear the recommendations and questions that they had for us about our downtown area. We spent the whole day walking around our downtown area, looking at the buildings, looking at the way that they're built, how they're currently being used. We talked to some property owners, we talked to business owners. We took a tour of the old movie theater, which was great to be able to see, I should say, to dream a little bit about what that property could look like in the future. And then they are going back, and they're going to put together a report and a presentation to come back with recommendations, ideas for how they could see us redeveloping some of our downtown, or really just embracing some of the things that we have in our downtown area. We were able to take them to Whittick's. They loved going into Whittick's and seeing how it still has the feel of when it was originally built, and as the oldest confectionery is really cool to have here in our city. So we have some good bones to what we already have that we just need to invest our communication strategy in talking about. We also went and talked about this corridor here and the Pumpkin Show Park corridor on North Court Street. So it was a really great time. When I look specifically at the plan that is in the comprehensive plan, you talked about specific tactics that were in here. One of the tactics that's in here for the downtown area is the community entertainment district, which is started by an application from a property owner to the city. So while we can move forward with that, it takes action from somebody else to start that. So somebody would definitely need to be interested in starting that and having a plan for that to be started. One of the questions that you specifically asked about, Chairperson Tice, was our downtown redevelopment districts. We have had a series of probably 5 meetings, the most recent being about this morning, to talk with our county auditor and our city auditor to get some clarification on some information that we received from the tax commissioner as it relates to those DRDs. My understanding is that the gentleman that does that type of work will be in the county auditor's office tomorrow afternoon. So I'm hoping to get some additional information for this group to share how we can move forward. I asked, if we could have an update for this meeting. Unfortunately, we were unable to get that information for you for this meeting.
Well, thanks for trying.
Yep.
So it's
Do you have
on
any
hold.
additional
So it's
questions?
on, the DRDs are on hold for now then, basically?
Yeah.
Pending more information from the state?
Well, pending more information, I think, from our local stakeholders, not necessarily the state.
I was under the impression that we might have to actually reapply for those. Are you hearing that, or?
I think that is the conversation that the county auditor is getting information from people who work directly with those types of districts.
Okay. All right, well, it's unfortunate it's gotten held up.
Yep.
Some of our other things that we have in our strategic plan, we're doing very well, I think, on working with the Visitors Bureau and Uptown Circleville to market events that are happening downtown. We have lots of events that are happening, and they are being publicized both through the city website, the Herald, the Visitors Bureau's app, Pickway. what's the app? Is Pickway, what is it, Pickway?
Wait, events.
Pickway events? I'm not sure. Discover Pickway, thank
Discover.
you, thank you. I should have had
I
that.
just shared it with you this
Yes,
morning.
it's a great app. But anyway, that's gone a long way, I think, to help get the word out with the public at what's going on, because there are lots of good things going on. We wanted to encourage more residential uses of the downtown area up in the upper floors, and I don't know how to gauge that. Mayor, do you have any idea if we are having,
I know that there is investment into one property that is gonna have second level, living quarters, if you will, or housing. There are a couple of other properties that have invested into their second floor, but then there are others that their second floors, because of, where they're located or, the infrastructure of the building would not be conducive to second-story living.
okay, very good.
But I will tell you that if I know Jason Duff and Small Nation, they're going to focus on second and third story occupancy of our downtown. They were very impressed with just the building architecture of our buildings downtown.
There's a lot of potential there, but I'm sure a lot of,
I'm sorry? Yes, yes.
Yes.
It was instrumental to what they do in Bellefountain with both Airbnb and condos on their second and third stories.
Anecdotally, we've had 2 calls this week from
we need to come to the microphone so everybody can hear you, please.
Talking from a cheap seat, sorry. Just anecdotally, we've had 2 calls this week from small businesses looking for grants. There's something going on, something's in the water, somebody has accessed infrastructure funds for window improvement. I forget the second infrastructure question, but Tiffany's working through those. We'll find state contacts with small business grants and get those to the business owners, but also to city administration. But 2 in 1 week, there is some downtown activity.
Yeah, I have heard that there are some potential new businesses coming to the downtown area.
Great, great. That'll all help with revitalization.
Yep. And the walkability.
It's not so much a question as I heard this morning from PICA of the increased number of calls that they are getting of people who are homeless. And we just always have to keep in mind that as people are moving and struggling financially. So I know that that is not a role, but it is part of our population, and it's growing, and we're challenged by that for, like, many cities and rural areas as well, too, so throughout the country, but.
We're very lucky to have PICA, to handle those issues more directly than.
I would also, I think it's appropriate for me to say, if you're interested in learning more about what our community is doing in that space, there is a group that meets at the Community United Methodist Church to specifically address those needs in our community that work alongside PICA and other organizations throughout the city.
And that's on the third Tuesday, I believe.
Third Tuesday.
In the afternoon, yeah. It's well worth attending.
All right, any other questions or comments about the downtown redevelopment? Okay, let's move on. Our fourth tactic that we are supposed to be focusing on is overall quality of place, which is our parks and trails and other things like that. But we have asked our service director to come and talk to us about what's going on with the city's parks. We do have 3 large community parks, Ted Lewis, of course, Mary Virginia Kreitz Hannon, and Barthelmess Parks. We have smaller neighborhood parks. We have the Triangle Park in Garden City, Smith Park, our new Emerine Park between Corwin and Ohio Streets. And in the last year, we have purchased the Atwater Green Space for a neighborhood park, and the green space along the creek on Pickaway Street, and the green space on the north end of River Ridge. So, Jim, if you could talk a little bit more about those things, that would be great.
Sure. First, I'd like to bring up our intern, Gracie.
Sure.
who's also working on parks a lot and is kind of instrumental this year in what we're going to do. Lost, it broke. There it is. Maybe. So we may have an opportunity, hopefully coming up soon through MORPSI, to put an intern on full-time, which our staff could really use. It's a great help. Hannah does a lot of the legwork and she's a lot of the muscle in our office and does a great job. So, but we don't have a lot of people to spread a lot of these grants around and administer those grants, which we're administering quite a few grants at this point, and a lot of them are for parks. So, let's see. All right, shared use path on Ohio Street, TAP funding, which is a grant through ODOT. See, we received $905,000 from the state for FY, their fiscal year, I think it's 26 or 27. Anyhow, we started the engineering on that process. We've had people out there working on getting ground data, elevations, those type of things to move that forward. We had our first kickoff meeting with ODOT, which when you meet with ODOT, they have 13 different people on a meeting, that from right-of-way to environmental to, everything you can think of. Then there's Hannah and I, and then our engineers. So that got started, and that'll be moving forward in the next year, and hopefully under construction next year sometime. So Ted Lewis Shelter House. Some not so good news on that. We bid that last Friday. The bid came in way over what our estimate was. We can't award that bid. We're going to be rebidding that project. I'm going to be trying to shuffle some financing around to move that project forward. So that may involve council, may not, just depends on how we can move the funds around. So, but we want to end up with that shelter house. I think that would be a great addition to that park, and we do get a lot of use out of our current three-season shelter house, and I think this would just increase the usage. I think the community needs more spaces for events, and they like to use the parks for those. So, moving on, Artemis Park expansion. And this, we can send you copies of this as well, which I think, did Hannah send that to you guys? Yeah. It's broken into 4 phases. It's actually 5 because we've got the first phase broken into 2. It's 1A and 1B. We are currently working on 1A with the $750,000 capital budget grant we received last year. We've just gotten to the point where we're going to sign off with the resolution or the ordinance we have up that allows us to sign on that grant agreement. It will put together phase 1A, which would be 1 ball diamond, some parking, some trail, and some engineering. So that will be $1 million just for that one phase. We're going to try to roll this into one large grant. We're going to ask for probably $10+ million from the state in this coming November round of the capital budget ask. And we are currently working on putting together something Gracie's actually working on, is the pool numbers, to put a real estimate together to see how much community support we're going to have for that, with the costs that she's developing based on other cities our size and our similar demographics with our median income. And she's putting that together right now. She hopes to have that done by the time she's done with our internship, which would be the beginning of August. So hopefully we have some numbers developed there, which that would increase our ask from the state, probably another $4 or $5 million if we want to install a pool at this location.
Will you include the operating expenses for a pool as well? It won't just be construction, right?
That's exactly what she's working on. That's what if we can get the state funding to build it, that's not the total picture, obviously.
Right.
And we're going to have some partnerships, probably with like the YMCA or other community groups that will help operate that pool, because they don't ever pay for themselves. You could charge $40 to go into a pool and enjoy the afternoon, but you're not going to get anybody to show up. Or you can charge 10 and you can't afford to pay for the pool. So you got to find that sweet spot. You got to find the funding, and the city's got to be able to pony up some of the money that it's going to take to keep it running out of, well, hopefully out of levy money and tax dollars. And as you're aware, we're going through a budget crunch right now, and some of the funding for these items would be out of where we're going to have to make cuts from. So, in parks, unfortunately, the first area that gets cut. Any questions on Barthelmess Park? We're moving that forward. It's in an engineering phase right now. I just got another engineering agreement that I'm looking over, and hopefully we'll have that. When I mentioned we want to bundle that into one project, if we get the capital money that we're asking for, we won't build the small portion we're currently engineering. We'll create one large project, which will give us some economy of scale. If we don't get the grant funding that we're asking for, then we'll move forward with the smaller project and just build it as we can.
Yeah, and at Barthelmess, we also have had investment in new pickleball courts, which was spearheaded
Yes.
by the Pickleball Association.
Right, and they're looking into another additional 2 courts, which we're currently working on that as well. That's correct. Yep.
You know, we have residents who are asking for more and more and more pickleball courts. They're very popular.
Yeah, they are. It's busy. Atwater Park, that one, there's not much to report on yet. We mow it. Grass grows fast this time of year, so it gets tall quickly. But that's something that Hannah's kind of done some work on. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, kind of what she's done, some of the preliminary work, but I'll let her talk about that.
Yeah, I did put out a series of surveys right after we did purchase this last year to the general public, the neighbors, and to some students at Circleville City Schools. So we've compiled all of those survey results, which we got a pretty substantial number of responses. So that kind of gave us an idea of what people were looking for. And then from those survey results, we went back to the 3rd graders at Circleville City Schools, and they used one of their math projects to design parks design a park for this land. So you can see kind of the top 5 that were chosen to present at a park board meeting here on the bottom of the screen. So while it's not an official preliminary design on the park, we do have a little bit of an idea of what the people and what the kids want there. So it's at least a starting point for when we do get some funding to be able to develop this park in the future.
And of course, that's funding dependent, so
Let me
we've
ask-
got,
Do we have any equipment that we have moved out of Ted Lewis that could be put there, or is
we
just out of
actually,
curiosity?
the equipment at Barthelmess, a lot of that was substantially old and not, we moved several pieces of the equipment we did have that was good from Ted Lewis to that existing park and remulched that area, which was a fair expense this year, but that's where the good equipment we had went. It was 3 or 4 pieces of equipment that we had, so.
Good. Glad we could reuse it.
Yeah, it did get reused of where that basketball court went, basically, is what we took out. Other than the merry-go-round, we couldn't use that, so everything else got used. North Pickaway Park, which that's what we're calling it right now, but that can be renamed at any time. But that is, as Hannah had mentioned earlier in her presentation, that was through a state grant, through a Clean Ohio grant, I believe, that we purchased that piece of land. It was underwater this past weekend, but now it's all gone. We'll be doing some invasive species removal. That'll be a passive recreation park, not an active recreation park, so there won't be any soccer fields or baseball diamonds or anything of that nature. possibly a dog park in the future. It will have trails that'll connect through, and there's kind of a roadway that dead ends into that park off of Rustic Drive that we will eventually try to connect with a walking bridge or a multi-use path bridge, and try to connect that back to Ted Lewis using some of the alleyways and roadways that are less used through there. So we will begin working on that one this year. Probably have a loop trail in that. We will be removing the old house that sits there, a dilapidated structure, and putting a small parking area in. So, and that's all part of the grant that we received.
So is that open for people to walk down that path at this point, or?
You can. We just bush hogged it. We just took possession of that, like a week ago or something like that. Hannah tirelessly worked on getting the money transferred from OPWC. That was an ordeal. That took months to get that money transferred, but she put it all together, and we got that funding, and it's ours now. So we will be moving that one forward. But yes, it is available.
So when you say closed on May 19th, you closed the deal? You didn't
Yes.
close the park?
Yes, close the deal.
Okay, good.
Yep. North Court Park, another park that was included in that grant money that we received. That one will be a little bit more on the back burner. We do want to eventually connect a multi-use path to that, which is going to run in front of the current River Ridge subdivision. You can see the asphalt pathway that's out there. That will eventually run up into that park. And we will be doing invasive species removal and probably some kind of trail through there. And then we'll be looking at that one more in the future to see maybe what the local folks up in River Ridge would like to see in there. But it's also a passive recreation. It's not for, you can't have soccer fields or those type of things.
And that's another case in which the revenue that comes off of that housing development can be used for that area, correct?
The big one, the NCA revenue that we're
NCA,
talking about
yes.
is definitely usable in any of the parks from any of those subdivisions now, and for roadway purposes like the roundabout at North Court Street, those type of things, which, since we brought that up, we are applying for tribal, what do they call it? Tribal Small Cities Assistance or something like that. So to get the engineering done on that project, then we'll probably be looking at small cities grant money for that roundabout, probably for several roundabouts in the future. So we're one of 6 cities, I think, in our district that can use small cities money, and so it's available to us. Rhine Park, you know, the basketball courts there, small parking area. We're going to look at putting some benches around that, and a couple picnic tables, something like that. Not a lot of development at this point, but I think at least some areas you could sit and watch or picnic or whatever. But I think the family actually went and put some landscaping around the park sign down there.
Planted some flowers?
Yeah.
On the Ohio Street end?
Yeah.
Is there any plan to get a sign put up on the Corwin end then? We discussed that being maybe on the ball field, backfield.
Well, I
fence.
don't have one planned, but it's something we could do,
Sure.
yes. Yeah, we could definitely put a sign up there. The active transportation plan, this is another grant that Hannah has worked on, which would bring improvements to pedestrian safety, multi-use paths, sidewalks, something we need to have in place, and it's part of our SAP plan that was recently approved by City Council. And there's another plan we also will need to do is the Safe Routes to School, which we have not applied for funding for that yet, but there is funding out there for that. Just a lot of things to administer. We're just, there's the 2 of us, and that's about it. So we do what we can with the people we've got, and right now we're administering a lot of grants and a lot of money outside of what we normally have to do. And that's it. That's the end of that presentation, so.
Great.
Are there any questions?
And I did want to ask about bike paths. I guess, is that part of that active transportation as well? I
Is
believe.
that's included with the, yeah.
And we've talked about that on an ongoing basis, and I think when we had the service department meeting with the Safe Streets for All, are the bike paths potentially going to be incorporated when streets are restriped as they're repaved and that
Yes.
sort of thing?
Yes. Yeah, we'll have to look at the striping plan. It may take some shutting down some parking lanes in some areas to have the width to run bike paths. But one of the main streets we're looking at is Pickaway Street, north-south, like Mound Street, Ohio Street, east-west. Some of the wider streets that we have in town, which a lot of those streets, with the single lanes on Pickaway Street and the center turn lane, there's enough room that most of that we could keep the parking and have a bike path as well and still have lane room for automotive traffic.
I think we would get a lot of backlash if we tried to take away parking.
Yeah, and that's
So parking's more
unfortunately,
than bike paths, I
yeah.
think, but,
unfortunately, it's part of
Who
it.
you talk to.
I guess.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Well, okay, so here, that's a whole, never mind. That's a whole nother question for another day. Let's circle back. Thank you so much for sharing all this information with us. It's a lot. You guys have been so busy, and appreciate all of your work on our parks and trails. We do have an ordinance tonight, kind of a last thing, because Jim has already discussed the things that are in the works for the Barthelmess Park capital improvement. So our ordinance tonight, it deals with accepting the grant that we've been awarded. Mrs. Colasar, can you read the title of that ordinance for us, please?
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a capital improvement community park recreation conservation project pass-through grant agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to provide grant funds to construct recreational facilities as part of the Barthelmess Park Walking Trail and Softball Diamond Expansion Project and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Do either of you have questions about this grant? I mean, Vince told us what the money's to be used for, the Phase 1 money.
have any questions, but I do support and make a recommendation to bring it to council on the June 7th meeting.
17th?
17th.
Yeah, okay, so you have a motion to forward this to council with a recommendation for passage? Is that correct? On June 17th by Audrey,
I'll second.
seconded by John. Please call the roll.
Tice,
Yes.
Moats,
Yes.
Lukasak.
Yes.
Okay, we will see that at our next council meeting then. And just really quickly, this last thing, we did, if Jim could come back up to the podium, we did have a major purchase. We had an opportunity as a city to purchase the former ODOT facility on York Street, Hayward.
It's a high street address, but the access is York Street.
Yes,
Yeah.
anyway, so I wanted you to just very quickly explain how that has been a really good strategic move for the city, and we've been able to shift some facilities.
Yeah, basically, that allowed the water department to move to our old facility, which they had outgrown their facility at the corner of Pickaway and Ohio Street.
So first though, the maintenance garage.
The maintenance garage
Moved.
moved to the ODOT garage, correct, or the old ODOT garage.
Right, the old, so we
Which
have-
was at the corner of Washington and Ohio Street, which, that facility, we'd outgrown that facility, just salt storage wise and equipment wise, we weren't able to keep a lot of our equipment under roof. And when we purchased the ODOT facility, there was, we believe, 2.5 times as much under roof storage area as we had at our site down on Washington Street. And that took, probably 6 months to complete the move and to do some cleaning and painting and that type of work. But they're fully moved into that facility now. It's fully operational. There's some work we'll be doing through the years, lands and buildings maintenance type stuff, but
So that's allowed you to have all of your equipment and your trucks and your mowers and your plows and everything under roof.
everything is under roof. About 20 or so thousand square feet of that is heated. So in the wintertime, we're able to keep vehicles operational that we normally would not have been able to keep operational. Our sweeper truck's one of the main ones. Keeps our backhoe inside, those type of things. So it's better for the equipment. And all of our moving vehicles are all under roof. So anything that's got an engine is sitting under roof right now, so, including our leaf machines, which we've never had that before. But, yes, it's been a fantastic move, and our service guys appreciate it and appreciate the backing of council to make that purchase. And can't say enough good things about it. It was a bargain for what ODOT sold it for.
You said it would have cost us maybe 4 or 5 times that much to build.
At least. I don't know, it's a 4.5 acre piece of property, maybe 5 acres, with over 30,000 square foot under roof. And we bought it for $800,000. I can't imagine we could have built it for less than 4 or 5 million at best. The way prices are going right now, I don't know that we could even
Yeah.
come close to that.
And with the equipment lifts and everything that came with it, you just
Exactly.
phenomenal deal.
There was the lifts, as you mentioned, a large truck lift, which we didn't have that capability in our old shop, a smaller lift, indoor facility for washing the trucks during the winter, so an indoor wash bay. A lot of things we didn't have that will help us maintain our vehicles. So
And so who moved into the facility on Washington Street?
the utility department moved into the Washington Street, and they did a nice job of cleaning that up, and we will be having a site visit there here, I believe, in July. So if you're interested in that, some of you have already seen it, so, but, yeah, Service Committee Chair Tom Duvall's put that together, yeah.
So that was the facility that was on the corner of Pickaway and Ohio?
They were at the corner of
They were there.
Pickaway in Ohio, yes. Now they're on Washington in Ohio.
So who's using the facility on Pickaway in Ohio now?
Currently, the police
Police
department,
department.
yeah.
See, they've got some vehicles stored there, and that's given them some
Yeah,
overflow.
they were able to move those from the fire department, which were sitting on the fire department's lot because they didn't have a storage facility, so, yeah, they're able to securely store evidence vehicles and other vehicles on that lot.
Excellent.
Once again, thank you for the team that we met with last week as we had the tour, and just, you could tell even some pride in, what they've done in the organizing and getting it all set up. And they put a couple of requests in, and you got to hear those, but, like the address.
Yeah.
But it was just really great to have that relationship and collaboration too.
Yeah, and we appreciate you coming down and looking at what they've done, because they are proud of it, and they've done a good job at getting it to the state that it's in. There's more work that needs done, but it'll get there eventually. But, yeah, no, we appreciate you showing up down there, so,
It's a
thank you.
wonderful facility.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jim.
all right.
All right, we have covered a lot of ground tonight. Any questions or anything else? Oh, Tom?
Sherry, we have Mr. Wayne Lithicum, the executive director of the Pickaway County YMCA with us. He's been sitting quietly and so on. Wayne, could you give us perhaps an update of what is happening with the YMCA? Building-wise and future-wise and so on. We've had a lot of questions that come up periodically.
Let's pull this down a little bit, I think.
Yes, sir.
Wayne Lanscombe, Executive Director of Pickaway County YMCA. It's kind of ironic, the timing of this. The mayor and I spoke this morning with Alexis Conrad about some of the things that we're talking about here. And my concern, that the message I'm taking to the executive board with the association that we belong to is about the growth in our area, the number of housing starts, the number of jobs that are going to come to the general area of Pickaway County, not just Circleville proper. So there's all kinds of conversation on our end that I want to get my people, it's like our COO, our CEO, and my direct report, in on some of these conversations. If it's all possible, could I get some of the information you had, Tim? Could I get that email to me, the presentation, and I can
Yeah.
use that with.
Our clerks can send that to you, Wayne, if you just give them after the meeting, give you your
Yeah.
email. Yes.
But that's where we are. We are, the trend is very good with the Y right now. As far as membership, as far as growth, we're the second largest. We have 55,000 square feet in our building there. But as we all know, it's been added on to over the years since 1978 when it was open. So there's a lot of things that can be improved. You mentioned pickleball a little bit ago. I would love to have, I told the mayor, I'd like to have a warehouse where I could just put more basketball courts, more pickleball courts, because it's a growing thing, and we need space. As far as to give you an answer, Tom, exactly what we're going to do, I don't have that yet. It's still it's a push on my end.
Just,
It's conversations, because I know that our association has made a commitment to grow by 3 or 4 branches in the next 2 or 3 years, whether that's by acquisition or whether it's by adding on to an existing building to make it a new building per se. So, there's a wish list we all have. It's a matter of what we can whittle it down to. Pools are always a big item. We talked about that this morning, and you're right. We can get it built, but maintaining it's north of $500,000-$600,000 a year to maintain a pool, staff it with lifeguards and do those things. So it's a big commitment on the community's part. But we do have a lot of great things in the community. My congratulations to the effort that these guys do to try to put this all together, because it's not easy, and dealing with all the questions you get. I hope I've answered at least a little bit of what you need. But yeah, we are pushing forward to try to do something, either by adding on, remodeling, a new building. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Sure.
But it's conversations that are being had, and my job now is to push even harder, for the growth of our community, because without the why, it's going to be tough.
well, the
And we want to be involved in everything when it comes to the community. That's what we're here for.
Well, you're doing a great job, and we're just kind of curious. It's the building's getting older, the pool's getting older, and trying to maintain that pool, I know, is not an easy thing.
Not an easy job, but, hey, if you have somebody who needs swimming lessons, we can teach how to swim.
There you go. Thank you,
All
Walt.
right, thank you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
So much. And I just want to say thank you so much to the mayor and her administrative team for all the work that you were doing, and Tim Colburn, you and your P3 team. It's been amazing. We are looking forward to wonderful years ahead for the city of Circleville, and all of these things coming to fruition and managing our growth. So that's our goal.
Thanks for your time, and thanks again for how approachable each one of you are. Tim, you too, you've taken time out and sat down with me to try to explain JEDs and TIFs and all those fun acronyms you throw at us all the time too. So you've been very approachable with that. Just thanks for what you guys do.
All right. Anything else anybody would like to say? All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved, by Audrey,
I'll second.
seconded by John. We are adjourned at 8:48. Thank you so much for being here this evening.